Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jack Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
Let's go. Master of all things tabletop. With the Paladins of Podcast. They ruin the games you love by talking rules that suck, how to build kick-ass encounters, destroy worlds, and really get your players invested. So go ahead and throw that fistful of dice at someone.
Oh, that is up.
Because we're going on a side quest.
Welcome back to SideQuests. I know it's been a long hiatus since Eli has left us, but the Paladins of Podcast are coming back. And today, we're working through with Mike. Mike, welcome to SideQuests. I know that we've talked a little bit. You're interested in checking us out, sticking around with us for a while, which I'm absolutely grateful for. And I don't want to take too much of the stage up. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, life experiences, how you got into the space, favorite games, etc. Let's give us the whole rundown.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it and the opportunity to be here. I can't thank you enough for this. My name's Mike. We'll go by Mike TaylorLyfe. It goes with the kind of a brand name that I've created for myself and for my business. I just retired about 2 years ago. I was in the military for 22 years. I was the communications specialist, an expert on several of the teams that I did. We can check on that, later on in the future. So I did that, and then while I was in, I got a bachelor's degree in computer science, and several technical certifications and whatnot, and to kind of expand myself and go ahead and trying to get my second degree started this summer.
What are you looking at doing your second degree in?
This one's going to be more into a marketing administrations with a concentration of entrepreneurship. Just with the several other plans that I have going on now and the ones that I'm trying to do ahead of time, which kind of falls into, part of that is because I started my own marketing business about 2019, 2020, right when I was getting to the end of my retirement phase of the military. I wanted something to kind of fall back on, and I didn't want to leave the house anymore. I wanted to be a part of the family, and my goal was to be like a soccer dad, but at the same time still work and not, try to be gone all the time. Plus, my wife was she kind of gave me the green light to to do that, and the red light to go ahead and be done with the military. We both discussed it, and we were getting into that last phase, and we were both kind of done. We started the marketing business. I run that now almost full time, and then I started to branch off shortly after I retired. So that that kind of helps out now, keeps me busy, and to do all these things, and and then while by the time we met, I had already been kind of a digital creator on social media and several other platforms, working with several other clients and music artists and things like that. So it was a very good adventure and experience, to do these things, and then kind of getting into the whole going back into my roots of being a huge geek, which most people won't really think that when they see me. I stand 6'4", 265 pounds. I'm built kind of like a retired gladiator and Viking. like I don't have that form anymore that I had, but I definitely, you could look like I used to, I used to walk into like the game shops or the comic shops, and they would ask if I was lost, like. So it kind of goes back. I've been been a huge geek, forever. I remember my dad always had comics. Like, he had old school comics. I remember, like, if you can think of the Warlord, the old school Warlord DC Warlord comic. I remember my dad had tons of those.
Sounds
like
more of a Marvel guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was. He had like the original X-Men series.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I have all of those now in my collection. I have like a closet full of just boxes of comics from I think from the 70s all the way up to mid 2000s. I think.
Holy shit!
Tons. Like, I have the original Spawn, like first 20, 25 issues of the original Spawn. I have the.
I lost mine.
Yeah, man. Like, it was amazing. Like, I have all these great. I can talk about these comics forever. But my dad he's the one that really got me into the geek culture. I'm more of a Star Wars person. He's more of a Star Trek person, but you can see
two houses.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I don't remember exactly when it came out, but HeroQuest was a big thing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And when it first came out, my dad got it for me, and that was the first time that I've really seen a board game in that manner. Like, I didn't know what D&D was. It wasn't like a big thing. I grew up in South Texas, so football and sports was like the thing to do. So that's what I did. And when my dad had bought me this for something that we would do on like rainy days or at night or something like that, we had a cabin, so we took that to the cabin. He showed me that, and I was hooked, man. I could not get enough of these type of games. And since then, it was just like, I started getting like the next one that came out several years later was the Dragon Quest with the I think I had a VHS to go with it, and Battle Masters with a huge map and and like the miniatures and like the cannons and castle and stuff. Those type of games were just, they always got me, and it kind of went along with my whole comic book addiction. You can go with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was just something that I really loved, and now it's something that I do now that kind of reminds me of like sort of my childhood. With me, my dad, and my brother was just something that we always did, at least on the weekends at night. We didn't have cable or anything, so they kind of helped us out a lot. And then as I kind of time went on, it phased out, especially when I was in the military. We didn't really do a lot of board games or have things like that. I was constantly busy doing other things.
When you were serving, were you deployed overseas at all, or were you stateside for your?
No, I was deployed a lot. I was gone a lot. That's another reason why me and my wife we're kind of done with it.
Yeah.
I was deployed to 2-3 different countries, like overseas, and then while I was back here in the States, I was actually deployed 6 times to combat tours, 6 different combat tours, on top of several other, they're called TDYs, where they're just short trips, a couple weeks to a couple months, and real quick, and then come back. So I was gone constantly, and then when I was home, I was always training. I was always doing something.
Okay.
So that's like my wife would say that when I was home, I still wasn't home. Like, I was constantly doing things. But my wife she was amazing. Like, she kept the house, she kept the house grounded and kept it going while I was gone all the time. Couldn't have done it without her. And it was
that's wonderful that you had that.
Yeah, it was a blessing, And so, with that, it's just kind of, the board games didn't really. We tried to take Monopoly, and half the time we would have to buy a new board game, on the way, because like pieces would be missing, or the box would be destroyed or something. So I think I have one game that I've had since the entire thing, and it was like a Monopoly, and I don't know if it has all the pieces or not, but I know we had bought several other games, with the group and the team and stuff, and they always get messed up or whatever.
Right. The reason I'd asked about deployments, I've had friends who are also deployed. They were primary infantry. And, they would always talk about how it was boring for them. They didn't have a whole lot to do. So they would end up playing things like board games or D&D, things that were lightweight, easy to move, portable, and you didn't need a lot of crap for. So when you said that with communications, I assumed that there would be obviously more work, but I wasn't sure what that would look like if you were deployed. So no, it's still busy. I mean, yeah, definitely. I didn't mean to sidetrack us with that. Just kind of a question.
No, it's good. Like, I really haven't thought about it, probably some time now. We did. I mean, there was times it was downtime. Then, definitely when I was in, I joined when it was 2000. So the internet was still fairly new, and we did have, like I said, we had board games. There was a lot of, Monopoly or, Uno, Life, Clue, like games that were universal that a lot of people, they would play. There wasn't very many. There's only a few people that I knew that played D&D, but to me, that was still fairly new. Like I didn't really know too much about it. I could carry on conversations about the geek culture, but I couldn't, really talk to them about it.
That was that still too far for you? I mean, like you had the board games, you had the comics, but going D&D was, I mean, that still seemed a little too deep in nerd culture for you.
Yeah, pretty much. I still had like the athlete, mentality. It was not cool. It was too nerdy. But comic books and playing HeroQuest every now and then, that you don't cross that line.
Right.
It helped out, and everybody loved cartoons or anime. So Dragon Ball Z was, by the time I graduated, Dragon Ball Z was a pretty big hit.
Guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah, so I mean, who didn't? The whole major fight against Frieza and and the Saiyans were crazy. So that's what we were we were all big about, but it wasn't, D&D wasn't still a big hit. I remember I just knew that I liked the books because the pictures were really cool and some of the lore in the background. I had friends that had them in the barracks, and I would look through them and read them, and I was like, man, that's really cool. If they had a video game, maybe I could play it.
That's funny.
I had a PlayStation and Xbox, and I would play games like that. Baldur's Gate was like a huge thing for me. Like me and my dad would play the Baldur's Gate game. And so that, that was probably the closest thing I had, and then Diablo came out and that blew my mind, so, so I definitely, I enjoyed those things, and those things were kind of like the gateway, for me to kind of get into it. And I kind of understood a lot more, as time went on, and, it wasn't just, some bunch of, nerds with pocket protectors, rolling dice in the corner, like,
how media portrayed them all the time.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, I get that, and I know that we had talked briefly, and I'm in very much of a similar boat. It's funny because I don't think I should oftentimes hold a full nerd card. I love comic books, love superheroes, love D&D. Medieval fantasy is my jam. Like I love Arthurian fantasy, to be exact. I've never read Lord of the Rings. I don't even like the movies. It's like when it comes to D&D and fantasy, Merlin is the top wizard. I don't care what anybody says. But I didn't get into it until like 2002, my sophomore year of high school. So you were going into service just before I graduated in 2003. But I had a friend who would sometimes just mid-conversation say something about like a +5 Warhammer. I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. It sounded nerdy, so I avoided D&D like the plague. Actually, I think that's taboo to say now because we found that we don't avoid plagues. But I avoided it the most I could because it was too far. But once I got into D&D, my entire thought process changed. It's like, I really dig this. This is everything I like already wrapped up into one thing. So that changed. Now, but for example, LARP is too far for me. Like that's like D&D is good. I would sit at the table in costumes with everybody else in costumes. We're good. But the second it pushes into live action role play, too much for me. I can't go there. When your dad had gotten you that HeroQuest, about how old were you? Do you remember?
Are you looking for a D&D podcast with a dark side? Something more like Game of Thrones and less like Monty Python? Tale of the Manticore is part dark fantasy audio drama, part solo D&D RPG. There's no plot armor here. The dice make all the important decisions. Join me as I resurrect the excitement, wonder, and emotion of old school D&D. Made for a mature audience, Tale of the Manticore is both a fiction and a game. It's the story where chaos rolls.
Man, I was probably I was probably getting close to like I guess fifth grade. I guess probably close to like fifth grade. So
Like
shoot, I don't even
10-ish.
know what. Probably about 10, 11, I guess. Probably about right around fifth grade. I think because that's when I started. Because right around, man, I want to say about fourth, fifth grade is when I started realizing that I had like a natural a talent for writing. And I would write constantly, and that was like the one thing. Like back then, I was raised in the '80s, so I grew up in the '80s, and ADHD and dyslexia did not exist. So they just thought, you were some crazy kid that just couldn't sit still and had a crazy imagination, and
You hear this, Mike? You're just all boy all the time.
Yeah. You just look at that. He's just all boy.
I got that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's gonna be one hell of a construction worker. Or
Oh man, talking about we talk about how things were different when we were growing up. I was born in '85, so while I have a few years in the '80s, I'm mostly a '90s kid. And I'll tell you, the difference between '80s and '90s are not staggering like they are between '90s and 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
But I can pull up records that I've got in my filing cabinet from my mom. This was back when you could say certain words that are no longer acceptable. And I have a report that says that I should be tested for retardation. Like it says, we think Rob might be retarded.
Oh man, I swear, like they thought I was constantly like, they're like, man, that boy is dumb. He is retarded. Like,
Yeah.
My IQ was up there. Like they were like, man, something's wrong. Like he is like the smartest retard in the class. Like that can't be that can't be right.
Now, as great as it is, I think that also alludes to if we look at a lot of other people in the hobby space, I mean, we all have exhibited that same desire of creativity. Some people bucket like you and I had for so long. Other people dive right in, which is kind of where you're at now, diving in head first. Like we've talked a little bit about some of the projects that you have going on, and we've talked about kind of where you had transitioned into D&D a few years ago after you had retired. Let's talk about that, because as much as our entire history is absolutely funny, that's really the meat and the potatoes, because you have a lot of awesome stuff in the works and you have a lot of accomplishments under your belt, but yet you've really only been in D&D. And when we say D&D this time, we are specifically talking about Dungeons and Dragons, whereas usually we'll say D&D and refer to all tabletop role-playing games because it's easy for people to digest. But right. Dungeons and Dragons, you jumped into about 5-ish years ago, if I remember correctly. 2018, 2019, 5-6.
Yeah. So towards the end of my military career, I had been sent and stationed in Kuwait to be, they call it NCOIC, but I was like a boss, it was like more of like I sat through meetings. I had to do a lot of paperwork, so I would I would go to the gym, and then I would just go sit in my room. And that's where I pretty much taught myself everything about building a business and a marketing business. So that's where I started that. And then on top of that, I started watching a lot of YouTube and started seeing a lot more like D&D stuff, because I was already in solo RPGs like like D100, was it 4 Against Darkness? Like I was really into solo RPGs because that's something I really enjoyed, because I couldn't play HeroQuest by myself yet. But the as I started looking D&D, I was like, man, this is amazing. Like I really started like really diving into it. I wasn't there with my family, and they were like a 12-hour difference, you know. So when I was awake, they were sleeping, and you know, and then so as I was doing all this, I started learning more and more about D&D, and then I was like, man, like I really want to play it, but there's no one to play with around here, and so as I just kept reading about the lore, and then I started developing like a semi-solo game, trying to take the stuff that I learned from, you know, D100 and 4 Against Darkness and some of the other ones, kind of implementing the D&D, and then I started diving, you know, crazy deep. So by the time I got home in mid 2019 or so, I was able to like start getting into it more. And then, you know, 2020 was when the COVID pandemic and the whole shutdown and everything. I have 3 little girls. My son had already been graduated and moved out. So I had my 3 daughters, and we were sitting in the house. So finally I was like, man, like I have a couple of miniatures and some books. I was like, let's make some fairy tale games, and we're going to start this. And then before you know it, they're like full blown monster hunters and bounty hunters and stuff. And
nice.
One my youngest daughter became a unicorn shape shifting druid, powerful wizard princess type thing. Like she, you know, they do it, and I would make them act it out. And so we played, you know, for almost that full year constantly, you know. And I started getting more and more into D&D because they were into it. And up until probably November this past year, like we played almost every Sunday. And I grew more and more into it, and to the point where this, I guess, last March, I had a friend of mine. I was like, man, like I was sending him my stories and stuff that I was building for the kids, and they were like 50, 60 pages long, you know, and
holy shit.
Yeah. So he was just like, man, how come you don't publish this stuff? And I was like, I don't know. I just, you know, is it that you think it's that good? He was like, man, can I have this and play with it with my party and make, you know, I would like make campaigns, and I would make the you know, one shots, and I would make side quests and magic, you know, everything, the characters. And he was like, man, you know, can I have this and can I use them? Like, absolutely, man. And so I finally got the nerve up after he talked to me a couple of times, and then I sent it to a couple other people. I kind of just threw it together, and I published it on DM Guild. And then, you know, come a couple months ago, I believe, I published my 4th one. So I have 3 adventure modules, and then I made a supplement. I call it a supplement module. It's it's a guild for like treasure hunters and whatnot. And just because the kids were using it, and I was like, man, if I'm already writing all this content, I might as well, you know, have it. Maybe somebody else can throw it into their game as well.
Yeah.
Doing that, like I started just getting more and more and learning more about the you know, the D&D history and things like that, and kind of publishing it to the point where now I made my own brand line. We started Chaotic Chronicles with it. So I had gone back and kind of like redid some of the stuff so that it all fit underneath my umbrella. So Chaotic Chronicles now has 4, I guess you would say 4 volumes or 4 modules underneath it.
Nice.
Yeah, so it worked out pretty good, and it's something that I really, really enjoy doing. And then as I was doing like a lot of the marketing and business stuff in the background, like I did my business stuff it was like a whole nother monster. So I kept them separated. You know,
yeah.
I dealt with the marketing. I dealt with like smaller businesses to larger businesses to, you know, medical companies and music artists, which is, you know, that was my favorite. But, you know, music artists are, you know, they come and go. They're not like consistent like the regular businesses. And then I started doing like working with learning about the gaming industry because of this. Because I was like, man, if I need to get into this, I need to learn more about what's going on behind the screen. And so I started learning more about this. Then I started being in contact with other people, and I started realizing there's more people and more skills and talents that are out there. As I was making connections, I was like, man, like I need to, you know, do something to kind of like keep this organized because I don't want to lose contact with these people. And this is all in same time I'm going through another type of training and learning, which I'll talk about that some other, you know, later on. I learned about like a team type mastermind group, like people have very professional industries have them. So I started learning about that. And I was like, man, let me try to do something. So I started reaching out to, people like you and other artists and creators. And I built the Discord that we have now, which I think what do we have, like almost 100 members now? And
it definitely got big quick. And if I remember correctly, we're pushing close to that. Let me pop in here real quick. 32 are online right now, and we have 57 offline, a few bots.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're getting pretty close to just 100, and I think I made it. I created this team, about a month and a half ago, 2 months at the most. And it was just me, a friend of mine that I met online about a year and a half ago, DM Dan. He's more of he's a disabled veteran as well, and he makes homebrew content, which now he's helping me. He can't work because of the disability stuff, so he donates his time and stuff to help me out with the Chaotic Chronicles. He's a very good digital artist, so I'm really lucky to have him to help me with my, the digital, the pictures and stuff. And I write up everything, and he'll come up with the stat blocks to make it look, like the Wizards of Coast style stat blocks is more organized.
Nice. DM Dan, I might have some questions.
Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah, he's there, and I think he just sent me a text message. Like, we talked throughout the day, and if you're definitely on the Discord, he's he'll be on there.
I'm definitely a part of it. It's just I got so many alerts all the time that I cannot keep up with everything. Unless I'm pinged exactly, like I miss so much.
Yeah, sometimes I have to go back just because I'm the admin and I'm trying to run the team in the right direction. I have to go back and try to read. And my wife's like, "Man, what are you reading all the time?" I'm like, "Man, there's 90 people in this damn group, and I'm trying to keep up with all these conversations, and then people will talk to me, but they don't ping me, so I have to, without them trying to, feel left out and everything. But as it grows bigger, like I'm gonna have to try to settle back a little bit more. But with that, the team actually, really helped out and worked for a lot of other people. I get a lot of messages from people. They just thanking me for forming the team and forming the group. Because they're able to expand their network and get more eyes on their content. I think we have 2 music composers in our group that make they make music for for commercials, for podcasts, for shows, YouTube channels. So they do a lot of these things, and a lot of people didn't know. So now they're actually getting more eyes on their stuff as well. And we have artists, and I think we have a couple people that are doing like the miniatures, the 3D molds and stuff, and they're actually branching out to some of these other companies so that they can, create their molds and their miniatures to go with these people's adventures, and we have been working with that as well. That was like something that I had an idea with, but these guys are far more advanced than I am. So it's just. And it worked out because then during the Discord you kind of chimed in like, hey, I'm thinking about starting up the podcast again, and I happened to be on, so it was meant to be. I was just like, hey man, that sounds pretty cool. Never done that before. I guess I'll check that box.
I'm grateful that you that you said yes, because it poses a lot of great opportunities, especially when Potato and I years ago envisioned SideQuests. Like we had an idea for it, and it was going well until unfortunately we had lost him. And then trying to sustain it and find a good format, like we had worked with Josh, we had worked with Craig and Eli, and we developed a format that fit for them, but it was never quite the full vision, and it became a lot of work for what it was. And what I'm excited about here is that you have a lot of great ideas that really align with what I was hoping to do, to be able to put SideQuests and build that bubble out in such a way that it ticks all these boxes for you, for me, for our audience members, for people who want to contribute. So I'm glad that you were on when I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting this back up. Would anybody be interested in joining up and getting this thing really rolling? I'm excited about having you here.
Man, I am. It's still, to me, it's not reality, because to me, like, I just thought I was going to be part-time writer for independent website for D&D, and play D&D on my free time or something. And now it's something that's a lot bigger, and going through different networks, and some people are like, hey, you know what, I can't use you, or your skills are not in mine, but I know somebody that actually can help out. And then while this was happening, like now, we are coming out with the game. It's not my game, not the designer, but I was asked to be one of the head writers for HeroQuest. The Kickstarter starts May 1st, I believe, 2024. It's a GPS walking game. Like, it's a game that kind of, if you think about the map version of I guess I don't know if Pokemon Go is a good example, but it's more of like
first that came to my mind.
Yeah, so like Pokemon Go was like that GPS game where you had to walk around and find the monsters. This is almost, it's kind of like that, but it's not Pokemon Go, so don't don't put it there. But it is like, you do have to get up and walk, which is my thing, is like, definitely stop sitting on the couch all damn day, and you go out and you can do your missions, and you advance, and it's not, our biggest thing was, it's not a pay to play game, because that's something that really pisses me off about games. I don't, like, there's no point of, like, I'm not going to spend another $20 so that I can advance to the next level. Like, I want to grind. Right. I want to get those experience points and keep going. And so with that, like, I think right now, I didn't realize what I was doing in the beginning when I signed on to do this a couple months ago. So I wrote up a mission, and with multiple choices, and went down a rabbit hole. And if you could see my map, it is huge, because I have about almost 50 pages of just multiple choice and different directions of a storyline. And when I had a meeting the other day with them, they were like, holy shit, guy, like, what in the hell were you, like, we have never seen anything like this. Like, we're going to have to, I was like, man, if you can just chop it down and make it work for the video game. I was like, I was like, as a storyteller and as a writer, like, I don't want the story to end. Like, I want it to continue to go, especially if you're a D&D writer. Like, our campaigns last for years. So it's like, you're telling me, if you're lucky, if you can, like, you're telling me you want me to finish a mission in like 3 or 4 steps, like this, like, and they have to be in 3 sentences long or so. Like, that's pretty hard, for people in our area and community. So it was a good challenge for me, and it's something that I'm really excited about, because I've never been anything a part of that, anything like that. So being a part of it now is, man, like, I'm telling everybody about it, and having meetings with the HeroQuest team and the designers and whatnot. So I need to actually kick myself in the butt and actually kind of finish this thing. That's we're going on over 50 pages, and they want me to do it in very short. So they have the actual designers for it, that are going to have work cut out for them, trying to chop it down and put it into the game itself. But the Kickstarter starts May 1st. Is running for 30 days, and everybody that does the actual Kickstarter, whatever tier that they get into, there's special items and equipment and things like that will be a part of the game that you can't get anywhere else. And then I think
style exclusive.
Yeah. And then I want to say that there's a certain tier and above where your name will actually be in the credits of the game from there on out.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can actually be a part of the game as well. So I definitely something that I will tell more about. And then there's other projects that we work with constantly. There's other projects that we have going on, especially in that team that we have. And just writing for them and coming up with ideas and things like that. They always come, and people are coming to me with more ideas that I wouldn't even thought about. So it's just something that's really, I'm very fortunate, and I'm really excited and, fired up about just being able to connect and network with all these people that we can, especially with me and you now, can reach out and spread the, I wouldn't say spread the word, but we're able to put a platform and voices to these people that, especially independent creators, which need it way more than most people,
Absolutely. And that's actually, when I started Epic Table Games itself, that was one of the things I really wanted to dive into, was helping support independent, smaller creators, publishers, etc. Because I was a small independent creator and publisher. I mean, my game by itself is just one game, but if I can help spread the word of 5 games, then it's 5 plus mine, not just mine alone. Same thing. These are not 5 individual games now. There are 6 games that we can all talk about and reference just by word of mouth, talking about, etc. I also believe that a rising tide brings all ships. I mean, this hobby space, it seems like, from a publisher standpoint, is divided. And this division comes down between large publishers and small publishers. And it seems like small publishers a lot of times try to do things the way large publishers do, which is keep everything tight, close-knit, in-house, do it all themselves. But independent publishers have an issue with that. I mean, it's super difficult to write an entire new system, adventure, game, do all the artwork, do all the layout, do all the marketing, etc. And then to finance all of that gets super difficult. Having a network like the one that you are building helps those small publishers, small independent creators, etc., get out there, and it mirrors my goals to help assist with them the best I can as well, which is incredible. And that's actually a great way to sort of lead into some of the things that we want to do with SideQuests here. And we've talked about a little bit of our goals. I mean, we've talked about having more guests come in. That's something that has always been a goal. And your network and your connections allow for that to be a clear possibility if we would like. And there's a lot of great questions and conversations that we're having in the Discord that would be great if we could get them out in the public. So we're hoping to bring those people in. And we want to have a more structured format, like segmented issues. I think that this all will work with SideQuests and those plans. What would you really like to see with SideQuests? I mean, your participation is much like mine, volunteer. I mean, is unfortunate for our pocketbooks as that's the case, but it's a passion project. And we still want to be able to make something of it. So what are you really hoping that we can do with SideQuests? And now that you're here, how do we get there? I mean, that's kind of a big question.
I think, for SideQuests itself, I don't, like, it kind of expressed myself to you before and when we met, podcast, I don't see as a podcast some way to get rich. I guess it's not a way, but it is a great platform to get the word out. Like you said, like, this is a passion project. This isn't something that I'm going to do is like a job where I'm getting paid. Like, I have other things that I do that I get paid for. This right here is something that I enjoy, especially like if we are able to help other people, or if we're able to like talk about things that are able to benefit ourselves and somebody else. And it just, to me, like, that is a huge thing. Getting paid for a podcast would be great. That's like getting paid to play D&D. That's great, because then you get paid to do the things that you love. But that's not like one of the top 5 goals. Like, this is what I'm going, but like you said, like, getting somebody on the podcast to talk about their new project, for us to pick their brain on how they got the one of the number 1 Kickstarters in the first 5 minutes of their opening. How did they become the DM Guild or Drive Through RPG bestseller? Where do they come up with their ideas? How do they brainstorm? Who's on their team? Or like, who do they work with? And things like that. If we can bring people in like that, because not just us, me and you want, like, there's people out there that's listening right now that they also want to know these things as well. Right. I was a person that listened to podcasts just to learn how to write better, and then now look at me now, like, I'm actually doing it and I'm helping other people just because I learned. I'm self-taught. Like, I didn't go to college to become a professional writer or anything. It was just a passion project that grew. A dream became a goal, and that goal now is something that I'm doing constantly. which I'm constantly encouraging, especially the people on our team or in our server, like, hey man, like, don't stop. If no one else wants to listen, just bounce it off of me. I'll tell you, like, man, that's pretty good, or you need to put some more, or that's way too much. But I'm still not perfect, and I'm not probably the best. I'm no Stephen King, but I can read a little bit.
But you're right. You are at least fresh eyes. And sometimes that's all it takes is just fresh eyes. In fact, I know that I had an opportunity to look over one of our members' project, and he was just talking like, hey, I mean, you're asking for some feedback. Here's a small list of things that I can say point out right away. And he's like, well, what about layout or kind of grammar and spelling? I'm like, grammar, spelling, I don't see much wrong with. Layout wise, I mean, you have a header down here at the end of the page, and all the content is in the left column. So just move that over. Otherwise, I mean, it was pretty standard. It was great. He was developing a Covenant lore. And I believe it was 7 vampire houses that sort of ran alongside the Curse of Strahd. So that way he had a little bit more, something in depth. That way, I mean, Curse of Strahd is already a ridiculously long campaign if you really want to do everything in it. This just adds to it. And I mean, his lore it was good enough to be able to include in somebody else's game if they were looking to do it. So it was fun to just sort of look over that.
Yeah, I think actually, I remember them talking about that. I think in the very beginning, I was helping him with the story plots. I was writing out a bunch of those, and then as it developed something bigger, I was like, man, that's kind of a little bit out of my realm. But that member, I want to say, like, their stuff is so in depth and detailed. Like, I am like, wow, like I was amazed on some of the content and stuff that they wrote. Like, I was like, man, they really put their heart and soul into this. Like, this is professional style. Like, you would have that on your shelf, for some type of information or something later. And my thing is that no one knows about it. No one knows. No one will ever hear about it. And I think if anything, we can give them that push. We were able to, like, give them that platform to hear it, so that the listeners that are listening now, maybe they'll be like, oh man, like, I am a developer, or maybe I know somebody that could hear, like, they can pass that podcast on. And that was the whole point of the building that server and that team is for that. And then now is like the next level up, for us to push that individual or that content or anything like that, above, and then plus we get interaction with the followers, and the listeners of the show, that's always a plus too. Like, that was a big thing. I think we talked about, is trying to get more interaction with the listeners and the followers, so we can, one, stay fresh, and we know what the hell's going on. I'm all about, reading comments and stories and whatever else they have, discussing, their ideas, because, I can't think of everything.
Right. Right. And that's something that we really want to make a big push for now is if you guys are listening through Spotify, you can actually do the question and answer through the Spotify descriptions. You can send us voice messages so you can actually be on the show and respond to those types of things. That is something that we're really hoping to push for, is to have that listener feedback, to have the comments, to have the discussion. Usually podcasts tend to be super dynamic for the hosts as they're conversing. But I think that if we were able to develop something that felt more like a radio talk, like a morning radio show, where people can send us messages, we can constantly be interacting. It'd be fun for us. It'd be fun for them. And I think that's something we kind of want to push for, but we'll have to figure it out as we go, because it's going to be a new aspect we haven't really been able to include before. And pushing for it now means learning as you go. And I'm okay with that. So
yeah, definitely. I think, I understand that the whole podcast realm, this is all new for me. I'm trying to learn from you, and, as I go as well. If hell, they could, as a listener, comment or email us or text us or, whatever it is you do to send us your story. Hell, if we can't get you on, we can at least read your story and your handler name or whatever, and give you credit and be able to interact with that story or laugh with you. Hell, what's the craziest thing that's happened at your table? I had, my nephew was trying to be chaotic evil one time. Long story short, he screwed up. Went to a trial that I had to pull out of my ass because he's that player that always goes left when the entire team goes right.
Yep.
And then he goes to he gets arrested, gets put on trial, and as he gets found guilty because I rolled 3 1s in a row, so he says he's gonna swallow his tongue and then rolls a natural 20. I roll another 1. These are all 4 different dice. And he swallows his tongue and dies. Like, he kills himself, like, right there.
I like that.
And I was just like, I'm standing there, and the rest of the team. So I think about, I have my 3 daughters and then his 2 other brothers. So I have 3 boys and 3 girls at this table, ranging from like 7-year-old to like 18-year-old. And like everybody's just standing there with their jaws dropped, and I'm standing there like I have no idea what to do. Especially as a DM, you're just like, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, all right, I'm dead. Like, we're just like, holy crap! Like this just happened, man. So my daughter, the youngest one, she was heartbroken, but she runs out of the room screaming and crying, and my wife comes in like, what the hell did you guys do? And we're just like, so yeah, that was a story to try to explain, but. I think that's probably one of my craziest stories that I've got. And, I can only tell that story so many times. So if there's somebody out there that has something crazy like that, or even crazier, like, I'm pretty sure people would want to hear that.
I'd like to hear people's stories.
Yeah, or are there ideas like, PMs or players, like, sometimes I take my ideas from my players. Because they're like, man, what if we did this? I'm like, man, that's a great idea. And then I'm like, yep, I made that up because that's my idea now. But I'm totally open to doing all that and trying to help them out. And if there's anybody that's listening to our this show and they think that they could be a fit to our Discord to help out, if they're a team player and want to help each other, other people out and even help with themselves if they are stuck or need something to help it. We have several book authors, and I think we have like 2 poets, and we have people that are professionally that publish books on a constant basis, and it all helped out to each other helping each other out with it with the network, man. So
I really dig it. I really dig that, and I appreciate the network. I mean, it helps. In fact, I've actually asked for the group's help as I'm writing Dark Noir.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, while I haven't gotten a lot of traction in the group yet for the work, I mean, I'm still working on, 1 chapter at a time. And eventually it's going to catch on. Like, I'll have to ask for specific help at some point.
Right. We have a special channel for your work, right? So we created, I think there's like 3 or 4 of you that have actual special, like, specific channels for y'all's projects to get help, off the network and things like that. And, I try to go through it and I read your stuff, and, if I can help, I do. If not, then I'm hopefully there's somebody else. But you're right. Like, as you get more content, you'll be able to pick up and, get more momentum on that stuff.
Yeah, and what's really cool, people, I don't think the network has realized this, but by the end of the Discord channel in our server for Dark Noir, if they pay attention, they could save every image, and by the end, they will have the core rulebook for free. So, I mean,
keep note of that.
It'll be there. Take note. If you want the behind the scenes, you want to help build it, you want a copy of it without ever even having to look at a pay site, it'll be in the Discord channel until it goes live. But that's that's where it is. I don't like to gatekeep too many ideas anymore. I read on a Reddit post once that there are so many creators right now that the likelihood of somebody stealing your idea in its entirety is almost impossible. And if they do steal it, them getting to market first is another huge hurdle. That just lowers the chances. So share your ideas. And sometimes, as we mentioned earlier, those fresh eyes that you can provide, Mike, those are what really help ideas become full-fledged things. They're no longer ideas anymore. They become things.
Mhm.
And once you have a thing, I mean, people are like, well, what the hell do I do with this? Well,
Yeah.
let's try to get it in other people's hands. And that's what we like to do. We like to network, get those people out there, get it seen, etc. I'm really excited about both our involvement together, about the Discord group, and a lot of the things that the future can hold. But as we kind of look at both time for our episode here, one of the big changes that you and I have talked about that we're going to do with SideQuests is that we're going to move it from a weekly show to a bi-weekly show. And so those every 2 weeks fits both into our schedules well. We're not overswamped because we're busy outside of this. And then we're still going to shoot for that 45-minute to about an hour and 15-minute. So that will be the range. That's what we're hoping for. And so, for example, right now we're sitting at about 48 minutes, which is a healthy amount. Like that's good. If our audience determines that if you guys want to hear a little bit more, or if something like an interview needs more time, I'm sure we'll be able to dedicate more time. But on top of that, if we want to have, let me rephrase that, because it's not if we want to have, if you guys want to be here, you can let us know. And then we will make a little box for you, and your microphone will go live, and you can sit down and help us out. The big thing is that the goal is to change it from a huge table talk style show to a smaller table talk show and more of a topic driven point show. I guess that sounds like a bad way to say that, but I don't have the best words right now.
Conversation.
Yeah, but still keep that natural conversational tone. I mean, we have a wealth of experience, not just beneath our belts, but in the communities we're a part of, and we really want to tap those. I hope that everybody actually listens to these episodes and they're like, yes, I want to join you. But we'll see how that goes. Now, we are 50 minutes in. Mike, you got anything that you'd like to ask? You can ask me. You can ask the audience. We can bullshit for a minute. Or if we're feeling like we're crunched on time in personal lives, we can say our goodbyes.
Well, I guess the big thing would be is one for the audience. Definitely make sure that you're sharing it out, letting people know that we are definitely back on the air, and also definitely to engage all the time, to let us know, comment, share, reach out to us, and definitely help, man. We can get you on the show. Give you about 10-15 minutes to say your 2 cents, and or if there's something that you have an idea about or whatever, we're able to, we can do all that. And then, we talked about there's other different types of, type of the TTRPG type community. There's other stuff out there. There's nonprofits, and there's different types of medical treatments that we talked about the other day, just off key. Of the role playing and therapy style. If there's any doctors or therapists that have actually done it. I've never met anybody that's done it, but I've read plenty about it. I'd love to hear about that. Or just we're able to just hear about the nonprofits in the area that are able to help, which is always cool. Or even local businesses. So local businesses need help. These type of things. So I think that's a huge thing. I mean, I don't have anything like besides outside of the stuff that we've talked about. I'll leave my information and links in the description. So our comments if you have any, and I'll offline I can reach out to people. I'd like to probably throw a little support with I work with a nonprofit myself. I work with the aerial recovery. We do a lot of humanitarian and natural disaster recovery. And with that, they do a ton of work with the human and child trafficking, human trafficking. So they it's anti-human trafficking. Sorry.
I think they understood. I mean, they're like, "Oh man, Mike is a human trafficker." Then we would be in a different conversation.
Yeah. So we what happens is we find a network while we're doing this humanitarian work, and then we go and rescue those people and those children. So I want to put a huge spotlight, just something that I've started this year. In January, I joined, and I've been doing the training and meetings and whatnot. And it's founded by Brittany Faye Turner. She's a huge real estate mogul, self-made billionaire, and then her husband Jeremy Locke, retired special forces. He does the special ops team recovery that I deal with. I work with those guys, and then we have several people that we work with and that are on our teams. So main thing is that we want to spread the word and be able to help more people around the world. Humanitarians type stuff, recovering people, building wells for especially I think they had a couple in Africa and Haiti and things like that they had wells built and helped out and repaired. And fresh water is definitely a huge thing, especially in some of those countries and areas. But if there's other nonprofits out there that do good work, we'll definitely look at them and make sure, because sometimes those nonprofits are definitely not what they seem to be, and we don't want to promote those guys.
Right. It gets kind of difficult. There was an expose years ago. This is actually before I went into marketing, because I went a marketing background. I learned that nonprofit organizations, have to spend most of their money. They have to reinvest it somehow. And instead of donating up to 100%, they got overhead that they got to pay for, obviously. But there are some that sack up to 85% of every dollar into what's called administrative fees. And that's what they do to balloon their board members' pockets and pocketbooks. That's what they do to, huge salaries, etc. In my opinion, having a humanitarian effort where your only concern is your board members isn't quite humanitarian. So, I definitely think the look at is worth it, as well as if there's any sort of crossover. Between the hobby space here and those efforts there. As you were mentioning, one of my first thoughts was, man, what if we gave everybody you had saved a small TTRPG pamphlet? Every time we build a well, hey, now that you have fresh water, grab a drink and sit down to play D&D. That kind of thing. But
that's one hell of an idea, and I think I might have to think about that. This time next year we'll be out going around the world doing stuff. Might as well,
Yeah, absolutely. Dungeon Masters Abroad. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I dig it. Now, guys, Mike is right. Let us know thoughts, comments, concerns, etc. And if you have different opinions, that's still fine. Both Mike and I talked about this. If we have disagreeing opinions, it's only going to make us better. We just keep the conversation civil and keep the conversation respectful, and nobody's bothered by it, because different opinions help with other than just having two consenting opinions all the time. Also, with all of our grand changes that we're going to be instituting, I think the one that I'm really most excited about is the consistency when we get to the end of the episode. And Mike's like, oh shit, what do we got going here? One thing I like to ask, just as we close out the episode, is any bits of advice. Now, this can just be random, like wash your face before your butt, or it can be a real thing. It's up to you. And as we're getting to an hour, and this is where we want to cut it out, any words of wisdom that you would like to share on your inaugural episode?
I told this to my daughter yesterday. She was telling me she was rattling some, she's in elementary, so she's in 4th grade. She's my middle daughter, and she always comes home with some type of random tale or song or something. And 9 times out of 10, I just look at her sideways like, that. Please don't repeat that. That is not, and she's like, what? Everybody's saying it at school. I'm like, that's not, would you say that in front of your grandmother, or would you say that in front of the pastor? Is that something that you could say? So as I told I was talking to my daughter, and she was saying, she said something, it was like a little rhyme or a song, and I looked at her, I was like, that makes you sound like a horrible person. You should not say that again. She's like, why? It's funny. I was like, no, it's not. And she was like, but my friend told me. I was like, and you see right there? I was like, that right there, I was like, that should tell you something right there. I was like, I need you to think about this from now on, and who you're around. Not every person that says they're your friend is your friend. Those people are, not everybody is there to help you. So you need to think twice before you say anything. So my advice would be, look around who you have. Who's that person around you? Are they cheering you on, or are they edging you to kind of jump off that cliff? Even a laugh might have something behind it. So I think the thing I say every day to a lot of people is, are you that beacon or are you an anchor? Are you that beacon of hope or inspiration, or are you the anchor that hold people back? So it's just that's my advice. Not everybody's going to be your friend. You need to kind of look and see who you're surrounding yourself with. And just like the Discord, I did like a small interview to see if they're going to be a good team player. And so far, with almost 100 people, we're doing really well with the positive feedback and the positivity and encouragement. And that is the kind of like how I want to live my life from here on out. Surround myself with the positivity and just the right people. So hopefully, that helps you and everybody that's listening. Kind of look around who you have around yourself. Are they real friends, or are they just somebody that just wants to see you fall for their pleasure?
True. And one thing I learned when I was younger, and it's not something I've thought about until you sort of mentioned this, is you are a reflection of the company you keep.
Right. Yeah.
So it's super important to keep that in mind. Guys, we're going to leave you with that here at an hour. Remember, if you need any of your general SRD needs, don't forget to check out the Open Gaming Network, where you can find things from Pathfinder 1st Edition to D&D 5e, Pathfinder 2e, Everyday Heroes, and others. We look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks. And until then, have a good one.
Have a good one.
Okay, new intro. We've changed the name. And we're still using the word paladin. Paladin. I mean, it hasn't been used in the English language in about 200 years, but okay.